Good morning, Savannah, Georgia. Good morning, Irwin this morning. This is the Vulnerable Community. I am Jerome Irwin, the host of Vulnerable Community. And with us this morning, we have Hani Mazura, and we have Latavia Sanders. They will introduce themselves in just a moment. This morning, we are going to talk about and we'll have information that is very important to the vulnerable communities right here downtown Savannah, Georgia, and all across Georgia. Our governor and our Secretary of State have found a way to get rid of, to purge voters off the voting list. And we're going to talk about this morning. We're going to tell you again, if you're not sure of your voting, whether you're registered to vote or not, go write the Secretary of State, call the Secretary of State, go to sos.gov and look up your voting right and see if you are registered to vote. They're purging people and they don't even know they're being purged off the list. And this is what we're going to talk about this morning. Now, Tavia, would you introduce yourself first? Because we're going to let Hanny have a lot. He's got a lot to say this morning.
I'm Latavia Sanders. I'm a community organizer, and I'm excited to get started with the conversation.
Hanny, would you please introduce yourself and give us a brief introduction of what you do?
Sure. I'm a senior staff attorney at Advancement Project in their Power and Democracy program. I focus on voting rights issues across the country, including in Georgia, and work on litigation, policy work, and other advocacy. I joined AP Advancement Project in June of this year. And prior to that, I was the voting rights program director at the Texas Civil Rights Project. And I've been working in the voting rights space since 2016.
And Annie had the opportunity to visit Savannah, Georgia last week, just ahead of our vice president, and he got just a taste of what it's like to be down in the South. So tell us some of the stuff that you found out while you were here, if you can tell us about what you found in this area.
Sure. First of all, Savannah is a great place. I really enjoyed my time visiting folks in the community and meeting with different groups. With regard to the voting rights situation in Georgia and specifically Chatham County, though there are, I believe, major issues. We've seen for years through our investigations that Chatham County has been improperly removing voters from the rolls, purging them without following federal laws, specifically the National Voter Registration Act, and not providing the proper notice, not providing the proper waiting period for people who don't respond to a notice, which is 2 federal election cycles, and just kind of removing voters from the rolls based on what anti-voter, activists or anti-voter vigilantes are saying about these voters based on pulling public records. But the way federal law works, it requires direct communication or the actions of the voter to decide whether they are removed, not some other third party that's kind of investigating and reviewing documents online about a specific individual. But we found lists of people being removed, and we were able to visit different parts of Chatham County to further investigate. And I think the situation is troubling across Georgia. There are signs that counties are realizing that what they've been doing is wrong, at least some of them, and they are, especially after we filed our litigation on this issue at the end of July. But I think there's and so they're kind of trying to create new processes, hopefully to make sure they're following federal law, and but the issue remains, and all those voters are still removed from the rolls that have been removed for the last few years, and I think this change from places like Chatham County, switch in direction, also has to do with the fact that federal law requires counties not to purge anybody, remove anybody from the rolls in a systematic way within 90 days of a federal election. And also it's a testament to the great work that groups on the ground in Georgia are doing to hold counties accountable for doing this, these purges. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Annie. With all the names that they're purging off the list, do you find it that this list is somewhat racially motivated?
We're still looking into that to see if if it's targeted towards specific communities. We will need to analyze a lot of different data to know specifically. But what we have seen is that the number of voters removed is a lot, especially just in this year, we're seeing hundreds of voters being removed from the rolls without getting even a chance to respond. And what we do know is that because they're not being given the proper notice, the proper waiting period, we've seen removals across Georgia within like a month after they were flagged by an activist, an anti-voter activist, to be removed or challenged. Within a month later, they're removed. So like they're not giving any time to these people to actually respond to the challenge. And that brings up a whole host of different issues. There's a whole host of reasons why somebody might not respond immediately to mail they're getting. A lot of people are working and incredibly busy. They have to make sure that they're paying the bills, and they might not. They might miss the mail. They might say they're going to respond to it later because out of all the things in life, taking care of kids, family, making sure that you have a roof over your head, all those things are always going to be more important than making sure you're registered to vote.
May I ask a question? So these people, if they're removed, how hard is it to re-register to vote? I'm just curious. What's the process? Is it what? Usually registering to vote is pretty quick. So what's the process once they're removed? Do they have to go through a whole lot of clearance or something?
So that's the thing. That's unclear at the moment. The challenge process, you should be able to just re-register. The problem is a lot of voters won't find out if they miss their mail or don't get notified. They won't find out that they're removed from the rolls maybe until election day when they try to vote. So it could be that you don't even know that you're purged from the rolls because they're not providing proper notification. They're removing people very quickly, or relatively speaking, to what federal law requires. The other issue is that these are challenges based on the idea that you have been you don't live. Some of them are based on the idea that the voter doesn't live in the county anymore. And we've seen at least one incident where a voter brought paperwork to show that they lived in the city that they believed they were a resident of, and the county went. Despite that proof, the county still upheld their challenge, and so that brings up a question of like, well, what it would be like. It should be that you should just be able to register to vote, but you could be challenged again. You could be targeted. The county could give you trouble. So it's always like important that you check your registration, make sure that you're properly registered to vote, and check frequently to make sure that you're not being removed. And counties shouldn't be removing anybody systematically at this point because we're within 90 days of the November election. But we are seeing, at least in our investigation, some counties even violating that rule. So as Jerome said at the beginning, always check your registration, and let someone know if like community activists, let them know if you've been challenged.
You're muted, Jerome, if you're talking.
One of the things we noticed when Hanny was here in Savannah, all these challenges are done by mostly one person. Is going around making these challenges for the other party or a specific reason. We don't know what party. I won't say what party she's with because I'm not sure. But I know that she's making challenges. She's challenged voters, and she's going to continue to challenge them if we can't stop her. And that's where Hanny comes in with their law office to try to put a stop to this foolishness.
Yeah, and that's what we've noticed across Georgia. There's only usually a handful of people, or maybe sometimes even one person, who is bringing, the challenges. And the reason why one person in their, on their free time usually can bring thousands of challenges, sometimes tens of thousands, over a matter of months or a year, is because of specific software that's being created to aggregate, a lot of this information and make it easier for a lot of these vigilante, anti-voter activists to compile and then provide to the counties. And so, software like Eagle AI and other software has made it easier to target voters en masse, and not just, in small batches. So that is something that has just made the situation worse with regard to challenges in Georgia. And again, federal law is very clear. Federal law says that, for example, if you've been removed based on a residency challenge, they say that you don't live there anymore. Federal law requires removal based on residency changes to happen only if the voter confirms in writing that they don't live there anymore, or if the county sends a notice to the voter, and if they don't respond to it, the county has to wait 2 federal election cycles. So that's 4 years before they can remove that voter from the rolls. That's
Okay,
the problem.
we're going to get ready and take a break, and we'll be right back, okay? I got some questions.
Need your garments cleaned with care and with a professional touch? Then bring them to One Price Cleaners in Garden City at the Old Farmers Market on Highway 80. Service you can count on.
All right, we're back. Now, one of the things that we talked about when you were here last week, honey, is the list. They got a list that's so thick. It's thick with names. And what I want you to do, honey, is give the audience your phone number, so that if they think that they find out they have been purged off off the voting roll, that they can call and get in touch with you.
Yeah, that works. And one thing I would first recommend, if it's okay, Jerome, that they call like a community group, like New Georgia Project or y'all, if that's okay, just to make sure. I can also provide my number, just if anybody has any questions about these issues. Generally, they can always reach out to me. My number is 202-728-9557. And that's 202-728-9557. But if you have been purged from the rolls, I would recommend calling, the community groups on the ground that are doing this work and trying to follow, and help voters with their issues, like New Georgia Project, like vulnerable communities, people like Jerome, and definitely, though, if anybody has any questions about these issues, I've been investigating this and leading litigation on this, so I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all have as well.
Mm-hmm. So what are the rights of the voters that if this was to happen to them and this was founded that it happened to them, is there any protections for them?
So the National Voter Registration Act protects voters. So if you've been wrongfully removed from the rolls, then you can, send a notice letter, a National Voter Registration Act notice letter to the county, and ask to be put back into the rolls. You can even file litigation.
Mhm.
Usually what the counties do, and hopefully what they'll do, is just put you back on the rolls if you contact them, or they might have you re-register. But the issue is that these are targeted to remove as many voters from the rolls as possible that the person thinks should be removed. And so it's kind of like they're casting, like, what seems like, based on the list, a wide net, and targeting hundreds of voters, and trying to get as many people off the rolls who think should be removed from the rolls. And so this is an effort that kind of isn't just an individualized issue, like it's not, but it's more of it's going to have a mass effect, essentially.
Well, this is good, and a lot of people don't like to say so, but I don't mind. This is nothing but a form of voter suppression, wherein they suppress the people who they can, and they take them off the roll, so therefore they can't vote, and that gives whoever they're trying to support the upper hand. If you want to say something about that.
Well, I mean, my head is still kind of rolling. I don't know if you answered my question earlier, but I guess you did. I guess I was trying to say, like, so if people are wrongfully targeted,
Mhm.
and it's founded that they've been wrongfully targeted to be removed, if it's founded that it was, racially motivated on top of it, is there anything, or have you known of anything that voters have been able to do beyond that? Because that's just wrong. It seemed like it should be some form of, I don't know, some kind of reaction to that,
Yeah.
especially if that's happening and it's founded.
So based on the practices that are happening right now of, like, people being improperly removed from the rolls, which is a violation of their voting rights, like, they're not supposed to be removed just because some third party thinks they don't live at a place anymore, or for whatever reason, without being provided the proper recourse to, respond, and their word should apply, and or, like, given the proper time to vote an election to show that they're still living in a place. So these people who are being removed, they're being removed in violation of their federal statutory voting rights. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because in a lot of states, and generally, like, the intent of the voter is what determines where their residency is based. And so people are going through a whole host of different things in life, to where you can't decipher from publicly available information what they see as home, right? You might be taking care of a family member in a different state, but you still see your home as in Georgia, for example. Now, there'll be publicly available information showing that you might be collecting mail at a different state, or that you might have a homestead exemption, at a different state, or you might what do you call it? Be have, like, a USPS change of address, right? Notification at a different state, or that because you applied for certain services at a different state while you were studying there or whatever, that you were put on the registration rolls there too. That does not mean that you're now not a resident of Georgia, and that you should be removed from the rolls. Residency is determined by the voter based on where they think their home is. And if somebody in Georgia believes that has lived there, has residence there, they should have the right to say and provide through their either in writing or respond to a confirmation notice from the county, and then determine where they and show where they are resident of. To rely on third-party voters who are using this kind of random information that doesn't really tell the full story is incredibly dangerous and does not take into consideration that people are living complex lives and residency can change. Even within a year, it can change multiple times. So there are a whole host of issues about the data that's being used, about the way that the process is occurring in these counties that brings up a lot of concerns. But the most important with regard to the lawsuit we filed is that it just violates federal law. Federal law makes it clear that the voter decides. It's based on the actions of the voter that whether they should be removed from the rolls or not based on an investigation by some third-party individual who, in a lot of cases, is not even an election official.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you're familiar with this or not, Octavia, but recently they tried to remove 680, 690 students from the voting roll out of Savannah State, just Savannah State alone. And that, to me, means they were targeting certain areas, a certain group of people that should not have been targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they weren't in their home, they have a right to file absentee ballots. So, Annie met through a friend of mine who we've been knowing each other for years. Eric and I have been through some ups and downs, but Eric is now working with New Georgia Project, and the fight has been going on. Ms. Pat Harris here in Savannah, along with several other people, got up in the Board of Elections meeting and spoke to the fact that they were trying to do the wrong thing by pointing and picking on these particular group of people, trying to cast them to the side. We have to be mindful and look at what's going on around us. October 7th, which is the last day to register to vote, it'll be creeping up on us real quick. And if we don't get out there and urge people to register and get out to vote, we're going to be in a world of hurt. Things like we're talking about today, purging people off the vote. We never heard of nothing like that, and not at this magnitude. We know that if people don't vote for so many years, they'll take them off the roll. It's been years since you heard them purge 4,000, 5,000 people at one time off the voter roll. And there ought to be some kind of retribution for these folks when they find out that they've been purged and hadn't been properly notified that they have been removed. So what kind of retribution can they look at, Honey? But before you answer that, think about it. We're going to take another quick break because we're running right into the break time. So we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back with you.
I'm not sure if break time is yet. Let's see about.
Hello, I'm Richard Coleman, and I'm running for the office of Sheriff of Chatham County. And when I'm elected, I promise to inspect what I expect. Chatham County, it's time for a change, and that change is me, Richard Cole.
We're back with you, and we were talking about. I was asking a question about retribution for these folk that are being put on the purge list and not knowing that they're being purged. And we can hand it back over to you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. One thing I wanted to, before I answer that question, I wanted to talk about was the some of the student challenges against students that are happening across the state. We've seen, I think, a couple of instances, and I don't know exactly the numbers of how many were. I don't remember off the top of my head the numbers of students challenged, but a lot of them were based on the fact that they had a PO box address. So the new bill that was recently passed doesn't allow or allows people to challenge folks with a PO box as their residential address. The issue is that a lot of students, though, who are living in dorms at some of these colleges, they their address is the university's post office, and so they all get like a PO box, and so that kind of creates an issue, and with how the law will be implemented, and kind of allows for students who, you know, are told that their address, is going to be this post office box, or that's what they're going to use for their mail, to be especially targeted. Now, there might be ways to avoid being targeted on those challenges by putting like your dorm building or something like that, and then putting as your mailing address the PO box. But a lot of students, they're putting their PO box for all of their mail. That is essentially their address, and it's usually only a few minutes, away from where they actually live. So that's a big issue that we are also monitoring, and we've seen some activity on. Thankfully, a lot of these challenges were not upheld by counties, but it just makes it easier to target students, the new law especially, and these challenges generally. And to answer your question about what voters can do if they are targeted and they're removed from the rolls based on, improperly based on a voter challenge upheld by a county, I would first and foremost contact, voting rights groups, community groups on the ground. A lot of them are following this information. So I would contact folks like New Georgia Project that are constantly day in, day out, doing amazing work, educating voters, helping voters with this issue, monitoring county boards of elections, and advocating for them to follow federal law when it comes to these issues. Now, also in the Chatham County area, I would definitely also recommend reaching out to Jerome and Natavia, and because y'all also do amazing work in the county, to make sure that there's a community of people that is working, to make sure that people's voting rights and civil rights are not being violated, and they're use those resources. Now, generally speaking, though, there are things that you can do, on top of that, which is to contact the county, tell them that you've been removed improperly. You might be able to just re-register to vote. That could be one way to resolve the issue. Another could be to, send an NVRA notice letter, or file litigation if you still have issues. So there are avenues under the law to protect your right to vote. in this situation, and your right to be registered to vote. But I believe, just based on my investigations into this issue, and to respond to this kind of these mass challenges targeting whole communities across Georgia, it needs a mass response. You need to connect with, in my opinion, community groups to help you navigate this situation and make sure that you remain on the rolls, in time for November, and then after that as well.
You know, I'm looking at the list last week. You had people from all the areas from around Savannah, Georgia, and Chatham County. And I think the biggest list you had was from out of the city itself. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. That's completely right. Yeah.
And as much as we go around downtown and we talk about voting, and we cover most of Savannah, all within about a period of 3 weeks, we can cover most of Savannah campus. We have to make sure that these people understand the importance of staying on the road, not just signing up to vote and then don't go vote, but it's staying on the road and being an active voter. Because if you don't vote, you don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a voice, you have nothing to say. You can talk about anybody you want to talk about, but you ain't got nothing to say. We can talk about what we want to talk about and do what we want to do, but the things we need to do is be at that poll and get in the lines. And a lot of people are talking about the fact that they can't carry water or they can't get water in the line and all like that. Bull. As long as you're not 150 feet within that pole, you get water. So I mean, that's another scare tactic. And if necessary, we have to get handed down here for election because
I'm ready.
I stay in trouble.
Yeah.
Good trouble,
Yeah.
that is.
Right.
But we don't want to expose nobody and do nothing illegal. But if you have a suspicion that you might have been removed from voters, if you give me a call, give New Georgia Project a call, we will make sure that we check and see and make sure that you've been removed, and then we'll put you in touch with Annie, and then that way you know what the process is, because this is going to be something that may turn out to be a lengthy process. We would like for it to be short, but we would love for you to let us know so we can know what to do and how to help you. That's why we call us the vulnerable community, because we know that our people need help. And when you need help, you have to get it wherever you can and whenever you can. And every now and then, the good master sends somebody along that is able to help you. So that's why we got Honey here with us this morning. So what else can you tell us about what's going on, Honey?
Yeah, I think it's really important that people realize that, if they've been removed from the rolls, it's not just usually a unique one-off incident, especially in Chatham County. Like, if you compare all the counties in Georgia, Chatham is one of the worst offenders. And that's not that's not just a coincidence. That's by design. A lot of people, especially these anti-voter activists that are challenging folks, are targeting Chatham County and trying to make sure that in their in their view that that people are removed who they feel shouldn't be on the rolls. So these actions that are happening are not unique. If you've been removed from the rolls, that's not something that's just unique to you. Hundreds of other thousands of other people have been removed from the rolls in Chatham County, and it's important that you contact community groups like and folks on the ground like Jerome immediately. And there are ways to make sure that you are registered again, and also contact your county and let them know that you've been improperly removed from the rolls. You should be able to quickly get back on the rolls, but we've seen issues in the past on this, and the law is murky on how the challenge process actually works in practice. So it's important that you make sure that you connect with people who have resources to protect your right to vote, and that can help you kind of navigate next steps with the county, and definitely connecting with people like New Georgia Project, Jerome, is critical. I think other things that are happening in Georgia and in Chatham County are, on top of these voter challenges, which I think are issue number one, in my opinion, in Chatham County, because it's kind of like a mass effort that they've been doing for a couple of years now, regularly. On top of that, we're seeing other issues happening. We're really concerned about some of the rules that are being passed down by the state election board. We're concerned about what will happen during the actual election in a lot of places, including in Chatham County, because it seems like already, based on the suppression tactics, it's already getting heated. So something we're watching closely.
With what's been happening lately, I saw an article, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but the governor was challenging three of the Board of Election members. Did you get the check up on that?
I did hear there was some tension between the governor and the state election board on some of the recent practices of actions of the board that many folks have said might violate state law. Yeah.
Where do we go from here? And I think that's a good question. Where do we go from here? Once we get this solved, if we get this solved, what would your next move be?
So I think the most, the type of work I do is called movement lawyering work. So really, as an attorney, my job is to serve movements on the ground in places like Chatham County, in places like Savannah. And so if we're able to resolve a lot of these issues, I think like the most important thing that folks need to know is that they are part of a community. And if they care about these issues, they care about making sure that the power of their community is, maintained and strengthened. Voting is a part of that. Making sure that your community has easy access to register to vote is critical. And as Jerome said, if that's taken away, then you have effectively lost a lever of power. Now, I'm not saying that voting is the end all be all. That's just one lever of power, but it is, it is a lever of power that you can use to make changes, not just nationally, also statewide and locally. And there are a lot of efforts in place to try to make sure that specific communities in places like Georgia have less and less power and less voting power and representation when it comes to elections. And so it's critical that, even if we're able to resolve these issues, that folks keep that in mind, and that they make sure that not only that they're registered to vote, that other people in their family, communities who are eligible to vote are also registered to vote, to preserve that power.
Okay, we going 15 minutes of running fast right now. We're gonna take another quick break, and then we're gonna wind it up after that break. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hey there! Are you ready to amplify your voice and embrace your passion? Tune in to Our Black Media Network, where community comes first and every story matters. We're here 24/7, delivering powerful content on everything from financial literacy to the latest in sports and mental health. We are unapologetically real, reflecting the heartbeat of our community with programs that inspire, empower, and drive change. Join us on all major media platforms to celebrate our unique voices and advocate for the change we want to see. With over 50K monthly viewers, our network is your go-to destination for authentic, engaging content. Be a part of the movement. Be a part of the change. Tune in to Our Black Media Network today and let your voice be heard.
All right, we're back again. We're going to do something that we hadn't done in a long time. Honey, what's up? What is in it? What's up for you after this is all over with?
After the election, or was that, sorry?
Where are you going after this is all over with?
With regard to like projects, or just in life?
In life, yeah, in life in general, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, my goal right now, I just joined Advancement Project, so my goal is to hopefully, stay here for a while. I already enjoy it a lot, working on this, and this is really the work that I've always wanted to do, and I got a chance to do it at my previous job as well, is to be an attorney for movements across the country, across the globe, even, potentially in the future. To make, that are trying to make change and trying to fight for social justice. And so my goal after, this litigation, this election season, is to remain where I'm at and fight the fight and be a resource and tool for communities and movements on the ground, like y'all's in Savannah and in Chatham County, to fight, to preserve their power, to build their power, and to make sure that, we are living in a democracy that actually is representative of the communities on the ground, and not, a democracy that suppresses the vote, that is beholden to special interests, or people, or corporations, or you know, like a, you know, a rule by the few, you know. So that is what I intend to continue doing at Advancement Project. And I think it's critical because really the people that will bring change are the folks in the movements that are, you know, pushing huge issues, social justice issues forward across the country and across the globe. And I feel like attorneys can play a critical role in helping those movements make that change. And the goal is to kind of be there for y'all to help make sure that we're able to do that, and we're still building power, and we're getting closer to a society that we, you know, dream will exist one day.
Have you, when again, looking at the list, has anyone took the time to see, to pay attention whether there were more women purged than men?
We haven't looked into that specifically, but we've been analyzing the list and having experts look at it, and are kind of still kind of trying to determine because these practices, they started really like in 2022, and they've been going on for a couple of years now, and so we're dealing with thousands and thousands and thousands of voters who've been removed from the rolls across Georgia and in Chatham County. And so it's, you know, we're analyzing and continuing to investigate, and we're hoping that, you know, as we prepare findings and develop an idea of you know, the metrics of who's been removed, who hasn't been removed, that we share that with the public, and you know, and so people know what's going on.
Now, when we talk about groups that's on the ground and putting boots on the ground, we've got several different organizations that's putting boots on the ground. Like you said, you got the New Georgia Project, you got A. Philip Randolph, you got Vote to Win, the men to men, all type of groups we got on the ground right now trying to help out. We've got the sororities, the Divine Nine, everybody's on the ground, and especially now since we have our vice president running. What would be some suggestions from you as to the people on with the boots on the ground as to how to attack this problem?
I think every group on the ground needs to have. So a lot of these lists are like, I believe Chatham County started. I'd have to check, but they might have started even uploading these lists on their website. So I think every group on the ground needs to have a copy of the lists to make sure that they know what, like, they can flag immediately somebody who's been removed from the rolls while they're, you know, organizing, while they're connecting with people, getting people registered to vote, getting them out to vote. They need to make sure they have that handy so they can help that voter and let them know that, hey, you've been targeted and removed from the rolls. Did you know that? Did you get a letter from the county? Did you get a chance to respond if you did get a letter? And what can we do to kind of get you back on the rolls and make sure it doesn't happen again? Because really, you know, the concerning thing is, like, because this is happening based on a challenge brought by a person who lives in, you know, a person who's not an election official, they could potentially challenge that person again. even after they register. So it's important that um, this is flagged for the county, that the community groups flag this immediately, and let the voter know what's going on. That would be my advice. Obviously, I'm not a my my primary work isn't being an organizer or anything like that. So those groups on the ground know exactly what to do to get people registered and out to vote. But with regard to this specific issue, just based on investigating it and my expertise, I would say carry a list, whether it's like a digital version or a paper, that's easily searchable, of all the people who have been removed from Chatham County the last couple of years, so that you can kind of use that on the ground, and let the voter know what happened to their vote, because there's a big chance that they don't even know that they were removed from the rolls.
Octavia, we got 3 minutes left, and you want to do your closing statement for us?
Sure. This was a very informative conversation. I think I've learned a lot as it relates to voter oppression. We're going to call it that. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Annie, you got 2 minutes. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. I'll just go back to, I joined Advancement Project in June of this year. And one of the reasons why I joined the organization was because they're movement lawyers. And when it comes to the voting rights work, one of the things I love about Advancement Project is the name of our program within the project for voting rights, which is Power and Democracy, because I really think that is what is at stake. It's the power of community groups, including vulnerable communities, that people are trying to take away. And we at Advancement Project are trying to make sure that doesn't happen, that we are not just, making sure that doesn't happen, but also building power for communities so that they can make sure that the changes, on a whole host of issues, everything at the local level, to the national level, that folks have a say, and that is not taken away from them. So what I love about the title of our program is that it's reflective of the work that needs to be done in voting rights and how people should look at voting rights. It's not just an individualized action that you do, as a civic duty. It's not just that. It's your voice is a part of many voices in your community that are speaking to every issue that impacts you and your community. And you and your community need to, in one way to build power within the community is to vote, and make sure that people in your community are voting. And so that's why I'm here. That's why we do this work. It's to help build power and to help make sure that, our democracy actually reflects a fair and just system where no community is actually vulnerable. Unfortunately, the status quo is that there are a lot of vulnerable communities because of things like voter suppression and gerrymandering and all these other issues. So yeah, we're here to fight all of that and make sure we live in a society that we've all dreamed of living in, that's actually just.
Okay, well, we thank you, Leonard, and Annie Mazarus, and we're here today with the vulnerable community. We will on Our Black Media. I want y'all to remember that Our Black Media, we're seen all across the country, all across the world, actually. And we try to get the word out to you and make sure that you understand what is going on. But until next week, the same time, 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, Our vulnerable network will be right here. We'll be right back and see y'all. And until then, God bless. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Like this.